The great hall of the Galactic Assembly was filled with light. Thousands of delegates from 43 different species sat in their seats watching the center stage. Today was the military exhibition, where each species showed their war strategies to the others. It was meant to build trust. It was meant to show strength. Admiral Kong Taeho stood at the edge of the human section, watching the Kellics presentation end. The Kellics were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They moved with pride. Their high commander, a massive warrior named Vorn, spoke about honor in battle. He talked about formations that had not changed in 10,000 years. He spoke of wars decided by single combat between champions. The assembly clapped. The Kellics' way of war was respected. It was clean. It was organized. Now it was humanity's turn. Admiral Kong walked to the center stage. He was not a large man. His hair was gray at the sides, and his uniform was simple compared to the decorated armor of other species. Behind him, Lieutenant Yuna carried a small display device. She was young, barely 30, but her eyes were sharp. "Thank you for allowing Earth to present," Admiral Kong said. His voice was calm. "We are new to this assembly. We have much to learn from all of you." Some delegates nodded. Others did not hide their boredom. Humans were the youngest species here. Their technology was basic. Their fleet was small. Many wondered why they had been invited at all. "I will show you how humanity fights," the Admiral continued. The display activated. Images appeared in the air above the stage. But they were not images of grand fleets or beautiful formations. They showed small groups of soldiers hiding in forests. They showed ships attacking supply lines instead of enemy fleets. They showed bombs planted in roads. They showed soldiers dressed as civilians. The hall grew quiet. "We call this asymmetric warfare," Admiral Kang explained. "When we face a stronger enemy, we do not meet them in open battle. We attack where they are weak. We destroy what they need. We make them fear every shadow." More images appeared. Cities burning. Factories exploding. Leaders killed in their sleep. "We also practice psychological warfare," he continued. "We break the enemy's spirit before we break their army. We spread fear. We spread doubt. We make them question everything." High Commander Vorn stood up from his seat. His forearms were crossed, and his face showed disgust. "This is not war," he said loudly. "This is cowardice. Where is the honor? Where's the glory?" Some delegates laughed. Others joined Vorn in standing. "You hide in shadows like insects," Vorn continued. "You attack the weak and run from the strong. This is not the way of warriors. This is the way of vermin." More laughter filled the hall. Admiral Kong did not move. His face showed nothing. Lieutenant Yuna stepped closer to him. "Sir, should I end the presentation?" she whispered. "No," he said quietly. "Let them finish." A delegate from the Merchant Guild, Ambassador Rilla, watched from her seat. She was different from the others. She did not laugh. Instead, she studied the humans carefully. She noticed something strange. The humans were not angry. They were not embarrassed. They were simply watching. In taking notes, High Commander Vorn walked toward the stage. He towered over Admiral Kang by nearly 2 feet. "Let me give you advice, human," Vorn said. "Real warriors face their enemies. Real warriors fight with honor. Your tactics are the desperate moves of prey animals. They will never work against a true military power." Admiral Kang looked up at the massive alien. "Thank you for your advice, High Commander. We will remember it." Something in his voice made Ambassador Rilla uncomfortable. It was too calm. Too patient. The presentation ended. The humans gathered their equipment and left the stage. The other delegates returned to their conversations, already forgetting about the small species from the edge of the galaxy, but Ambassador Ryla did not forget. She watched the humans leave the hall. She saw how they walked without hurry. She saw how Lieutenant Yuna was writing something on a small device. She saw Admiral Kang glance back at High Commander Vorn one last time. There was no anger in that glance. There was something else. Something that looked almost like measurement on their ship. The ESV Resolve, Admiral Kong stood at a window looking out at the stars. Lieutenant Yuna entered his quarters and stood at attention. "Sir, the crew is asking about what happened," she said. "They want to know if the mockery bothers you." Admiral Kang was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Lieutenant, do you know what happens when a predator chases prey?" "The prey runs, sir." "Yes. And the predator expects this. The predator is built for the chase. Its muscles, its instincts, everything is designed for pursuing something that flees." He turned to face her. "But what happens when the prey stops running?" Yuna thought about this. The predator catches it? Sometimes the predator becomes confused. It does not know what to do when the chase ends. It does not understand prey that turns and faces it. It does not know how to react when the prey shows its teeth. The Admiral walked to his desk and sat down. He opened a file on his computer. It contained everything they knew about the Kellex Empire. Their fleet positions, their supply lines, their political structure, information gathered over years of quiet observation. "They laughed at us today," he said. "They called us vermin. They think we are weak because we do not fight the way they do. Let them think this, and when they learn the truth, sir." Admiral Kang looked at the file, page after page of military intelligence. Years of preparation for a war that might never come, or might come tomorrow. When prey stops running, lieutenant predators rarely ask why. They simply assume the prey has given up. They never consider that the prey might have been leading them somewhere. They never imagine that the prey might have been the hunter all along. Lieutenant Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. She had served under the Admiral for 5 years. She had never heard him speak like this. "Sir, are we expecting trouble with the Kellex?" The Admiral closed the file. "We expect nothing, Lieutenant. We prepare for everything. That is the human way." Somewhere across the galaxy, High Commander Vorn was telling his officers about the foolish humans and their pathetic tactics. They laughed together, confident in their strength. They did not know that their empire had been studied for a decade. They did not know that every weakness had been mapped. They did not know that the quiet humans with their simple uniforms had already planned for war. They thought they were the predators. They were wrong. The mining colony of New Busan was small. It sat on a rocky moon at the edge of assembly space, far from the great trade routes and political centers. 12,000 humans lived there. Miners, engineers, families. Children played in the underground parks while their parents worked the deep shafts. They had no warships. They had no weapons. They had only a small communication station and a few transport vessels. When the Kellex fleet appeared in orbit, there was no warning. 20 warships against a civilian colony. The attack lasted 14 minutes. Captain Jin was off-world when it happened. She was commanding a transport ship, carrying supplies from the inner systems. She was 3 hours away when she received the distress call. By the time she arrived, there was nothing left. She floated in space above the burning moon. Debris surrounded her ship. Pieces of homes. Pieces of people. The Kellex fleet was already gone, leaving only destruction behind. Jin had grown up on New Busan. Her parents were still there. Her younger brother, her childhood friends. All of them were now dust floating in the void. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply recorded everything. Every piece of wreckage, every body she could find, every detail of the attack. Then she set course for Earth. The Galactic Assembly met 2 weeks later. Earth's ambassador demanded justice. He showed the recordings. He presented evidence that the colony was inside recognized human territory. He asked for punishment for the Kellex Empire. High Commander Vorn responded with bored contempt. The colony was in a disputed zone, he said. Our expansion into that sector was approved by the Assembly. The humans were warned to leave. They chose to stay. This was a military operation against illegal settlers. They were civilians. The human ambassador shouted. 12,000 people? Children. Casualties of their own government's failure to protect them, Vorn replied. Perhaps if humans spent less time hiding in shadows and more time building proper fleets, your people would still be alive. The Assembly voted. The result was what Earth expected. a formal apology from the Kelix, minor financial compensation, a suggestion that both sides improve communication. No punishment, no consequences, no justice. President Bae Seung-won watched the vote from Earth. He was an old man now, with white hair and a face carved by decades of difficult decisions. He had been a soldier once, long ago, then a general, then a politician. He understood power. He understood how the galaxy worked. The strong did what they wanted. The weak suffered what they must. He had hoped that joining the assembly would change this. He had hoped that diplomacy would protect his people. He had been wrong. Dr. Nari entered his office without knocking. She was the head of Earth's intelligence division, a woman in her 60s with cold eyes and a brilliant mind. She had been preparing for this day for 20 years. "The vote is finished," she said. "I know. What are your orders, sir?" President Bae looked out the window. Earth hung in space below, beautiful and fragile. 8 billion people who trusted him to keep them safe. "Activate Protocol Ember," he said. Dr. Nari nodded. She had expected this. Full activation. Full activation. Every asset. Every plan. Everything we have prepared. "Sir, once we begin, we cannot stop. The galaxy will never see us the same way again." President Bae turned to face her. His eyes were hard. "The galaxy already sees us as vermin. As prey, as a joke. 12,000 of my people are dead, and the assembly offered us an apology." He sat down at his desk. "No more. We will teach them what happens when they mistake patience for weakness." 1 week later, President Bae addressed the Galactic Assembly. Every delegate was present. High Commander Vorn watched with amusement, expecting more complaints, more begging, more weakness. President Bae spoke simply. 6 months ago, your assembly laughed at human military tactics. You called us cowards. You called us vermin. We said nothing. We accepted your judgment. We continued to seek peace and understanding." He paused. 2 weeks ago, the Kelix Empire murdered 12,000 of our civilians. Your assembly offered us words, apologies, suggestions. We have considered your response carefully. The hall was silent now. Something in the president's voice had changed. The begging tone was gone. "You have mistaken our patience for weakness," he continued. "You have mistaken our diplomacy for fear. You have mistaken our desire for peace, for inability to make war." High Commander Vorn stood up. "Are you threatening the Kelix Empire, human? With what? Your shadow tactics? Your coward strategies?" President Bae looked directly at Vorn. His face showed nothing. "I am not threatening anyone, High Commander. I am simply informing this assembly of a truth you have failed to understand. We do not fight the way you do. We do not follow your rules. We do not care about your honor." He turned and walked toward the exit. "You will not make this mistake again," he said as he left. Some delegates laughed nervously. Others exchanged confused glances. High Commander Vorn sat down with a dismissive wave of his forearms. "Empty words," he said. "The humans are too weak to do anything." Ambassador Rilla did not laugh. She remembered the look in Admiral Kong's eyes at the military exhibition. That same look had been in President Bae's eyes today. Patient, measuring, waiting. She sent an urgent message to her government. "Something is wrong," she wrote. "The humans are not reacting the way they should. They are not afraid. I recommend caution." Her message was ignored. On Earth, in a quiet room deep underground, President Bae sat alone. A single document lay on the desk before him. It was short, only 2 pages. Legal language authorizing the use of all military resources against the Kelix Empire. There was no ceremony. No music. No flags. Just an old man with a pen. He thought about the 12,000. Dead miners, engineers, families, children. He thought about their names, which he had read one by one over the past 2 weeks. He signed the document. The title read, "Declaration of Total War Against the Kelix Empire." No one in the galaxy noticed. There was no announcement, no broadcast, no warning. The document was filed in a classified archive, seen only by those who needed to see it. Captain Jin received new orders the next day. She was given command of a ship called the ESV Silent Fire. It was not a large ship, but it was fast and quiet. Its crew were all volunteers. All of them had lost someone at New Busan. Your mission is simple, Dr. Nari told her. You will be the first. Others will follow. The Kelix will learn that there is a price for what they have done. Jin looked at the ship. Sleek and dark, built for stealth and speed. When do we start? She asked. You already have. Across the galaxy, the Kelix Empire continued its expansion. High Commander Vorn planned his next conquests. The Assembly debated trade agreements. Everyone had already forgotten about the dead colony and the angry humans. They did not know that. War had already been declared. They did not know that silent ships were already moving through space. They did not know that the prey had finally decided to hunt, but they would. Learn, the first reports came at midnight. A Kelix military station on the edge of their territory had gone silent. No distress call, no emergency signal, just silence. The station commander sent a patrol ship to investigate. The patrol ship found debris. Nothing else. Before the commander could report this, a second station went dark, then a third, then 5 more at once. Within 6 hours, 17 Kelix military installations had been destroyed. High Commander Vorn was woken from his sleep by frantic officers. He stormed into the command center of his flagship, demanding answers. No one had any. Show me the attack recordings, he ordered. There are none, High Commander. The stations were destroyed too quickly. No sensors detected any incoming ships. No weapon signatures. Nothing.
Oups.
That is impossible. 17 stations do not simply disappear. They had. Over the next week, the attacks continued. Supply convoys vanished between systems. Communication relays exploded without warning. Patrol fleets reported strange sensor readings, then went silent forever. The Kelix Empire was bleeding, and they could not see the knife. Admiral Kang Taeho watched the reports from his command ship, the ESV Resolve. Around him, holographic displays showed the position of every human vessel in Kelix space. There were hundreds of them, spread across the Empire like a virus. Small ships. Quiet ships. Ships built for one purpose. Commander Hannah's Ghost Division has completed Phase 1, Lieutenant Yuna reported. All primary targets have been eliminated. No human casualties. And the enemy response? Confusion, sir. They are pulling their fleets back toward core worlds, but they do not know where to look. They still believe this is random pirate activity. Admiral Kong nodded. Good. Begin Phase 2. Target their fuel production. Across the galaxy, Ambassador Rilla was conducting her own investigation. She had been watching the humans since the military exhibition. She had seen something in their eyes that others had missed. Now she needed to understand what it meant. She accessed the assembly archives and searched for human history. What she found kept her awake for 3 days. The record showed thousands of years of human warfare, but it was nothing like the wars she knew. There were no formal battles, no honor duels, no agreed-upon rules. Instead, she found horror after horror. She read about Mongol armies that killed entire cities to spread fear. She read about soldiers who burned their own lands to deny resources to invaders. She read about bombs dropped on civilian populations. She read about weapons designed to poison the earth for generations. She read about something called total war. The concept made her physically ill. In her species' history, war was a last resort. It was fought between warriors, away from civilians. It ended when one side surrendered. It had rules. Humans had no such limitations. When humans went to war, everything became a weapon. Civilians, infrastructure, food, water, information, fear. They did not fight to win battles. They fought to destroy their enemy completely, and they were very, very good at it. Rilla sent an urgent message to the assembly. The Kelix are under attack, she wrote. The humans have not announced anything because they do not fight with announcements. They fight with shadows. I have studied their history. We are not prepared for what they can do. We must intervene before this becomes a galaxy-wide crisis. Counselor Delth, the assembly mediator, responded dismissively. The Kellics can handle human terrorists. There is no evidence of official Earth's military involvement. We will not interfere in internal Kellics matters. But Rila knew better. The precision of the attacks, the perfect timing, the complete silence. This was not terrorism. This was a military operation on a scale the galaxy had never seen. High Commander. Vorn finally addressed the assembly himself. His image appeared on screens across the galaxy, his face showing fury and confusion. The humans are attacking us with dishonorable tactics, he declared. They strike from shadows. They target our supplies instead of our fleets. They refuse to face us in proper battle. We demand the assembly force them to fight honorably or face sanctions. Admiral Kong sent Earth's official response. His face was calm. His voice was quiet. Kellics claim we are attacking them. We have made no declaration of war. We have deployed no official military forces to Kellic space. If the Kellics are experiencing difficulties, perhaps they should look to their own security failures. It was technically true. Earth had not announced the war. The ships attacking the Kellics were officially lost or decommissioned. The crews were volunteers who had resigned from military service. On paper, nothing was happening. But installations kept exploding. Convoys kept disappearing. Officers kept dying in their beds. Commander Hannah led the Ghost Division from a ship that did not officially exist. She was a small woman with short hair and scars on her hands. Her team had trained for years for this mission. They moved like smoke through Kellic space, striking without warning, vanishing without trace. Target confirmed, one of her officers reported. High Commander Vorn's personal fuel depot. Security is heavy. How heavy? 30 ships. 500 ground troops. Energy shields at full power. Hannah studied the display. A direct attack would be suicide. But she was not planning a direct attack. Deploy Package 7, she ordered. Time delay of 40 hours. Package 7 was a virus. Not a computer virus. A biological agent designed to attack Kellic's fuel cells. It would not harm living beings. It would simply make their fuel useless, 40 hours later. When Vorn's fleet tried to respond to another attack, their ships would not start. Their weapons would not fire. They would be helpless. Hannah smiled. Humans did not need to destroy enemies in battle. They just needed to make battle impossible. Ambassador Rilla finally managed to contact Admiral Kong directly. She had pulled every favor she had to arrange the meeting. When his face appeared on her screen, she spoke quickly. I know what you are doing, she said. I have studied your history. I understand your methods. Please, Admiral, let me help negotiate a peace before this goes further. Kong's expression did not change. What makes you think we want peace, Ambassador? 12,000 dead. I know. It was a terrible crime, but more killing will not bring them back. The Kellics can be made to pay reparations. Real reparations. I can arrange, Ambassador, Kong interrupted gently. Do you know what the Kellics offered us after they killed our people? An apology? Words. They thought words were enough because they thought we were too weak to respond. He leaned forward. We are not weak. We were simply patient. We waited until we were ready. We planned until every detail was perfect. Now we are executing those plans. And we will not stop until the galaxy understands a simple truth. What truth? That human patience is not human weakness. That human silence is not human acceptance. That when humans decide something is worth fighting for, we do not stop. Ever for any reason. He ended the transmission. Rilla sat alone in the darkness. She thought about the reports she had read. 17 installations destroyed. 200 ships missing. Supply lines collapsing. All in 3 weeks. All without a single human announcing anything. She realized something terrible. The humans had been mocked for their tactics. They had been called vermin, cowards, prey. But Prey did not systematically dismantle empires. Prey did not plan for decades. Prey did not turn patience into a weapon. She sent one final message to the assembly. It was short. The humans have not broken galactic law. They simply do not fight the way we do. We laughed at their tactics. We called them the strategies of prey. We were wrong. They were never the prey. We were. No one responded. But somewhere in the darkness of space, silent ships continued their work. And the Kellex Empire continued to fall apart, piece by piece, without ever seeing the enemy that was killing it. 2 months into the war, the Kellex Empire was dying, not from battle, not from invasion, from 1,000 small cuts that bled it dry every day. Fuel stations burned. Communication networks went dark. Officers were assassinated in their homes. Ships that left port never arrived at their destinations. High Commander Vorn stood in his command center, watching holographic maps that showed his empire falling apart. He had the largest fleet in the quadrant. He had millions of soldiers ready to fight, but there was no enemy to fight. Where are they? He screamed at his officers. Find them. Give me something to attack. His officers had no answers. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with perfect precision, and vanished before any response was possible. It was like fighting shadows, like fighting ghosts. High Commander, one of his advisors, said carefully, "Perhaps we should consider negotiation." The assembly could negotiation? Vorn grabbed the advisor by the throat with 2 of his arms. "We are the Kellex Empire. We do not negotiate with vermin." But even as he said the words, he knew they were empty. His empire was strong in fleet numbers, in military tradition, in honor. None of those things mattered against an enemy that refused to face him. Lieutenant Yuna presented her final report to Admiral Kang. She had been working on the Cascade Protocol for 6 months. It was the last phase of the war. "Everything is ready, sir," she said. "We have compiled evidence of Kellex war crimes against 12 different species over the past century. Unauthorized attacks, civilian massacres, broken treaties, all verified, all documented in our distribution network. Every major news service in the assembly will receive the files simultaneously. We have also placed the information in public databases that cannot be censored. By tomorrow morning, the entire galaxy will know what the Kellex have done." Admiral Kang nodded. Execute. The Cascade Protocol was not a weapon in any traditional sense. It was information. Thousands of documents, recordings, testimonies, proof that the Kellex had been attacking and destroying weaker species for generations, always claiming the attacks were defensive or accidental. The galaxy woke up to the truth. Species that had been allied with the Kellex suddenly found proof that their own colonies had been attacked years ago. Species that had traded with the Kellex discovered that their merchant ships had been robbed and the crews killed. Species that had trusted Kellex promises found evidence of every broken word. Within 24 hours, the Kellex Empire was alone. Ambassador Rilla watched the news feeds with a mixture of horror and admiration. The humans had not just attacked with ships and soldiers. They had attacked with truth. They had turned the Kellex's own history into a weapon. "We planned this for years," she said to herself. "They gathered evidence for years. They waited until the perfect moment. And now the Kellex have no friends left in the galaxy." It was the most devastating attack she had ever seen, and not a single shot had been fired. Captain Jin led her ship, the Silent Fire, toward the Kellex homeworld. She was no longer alone. 100 human ships followed her, all veterans of the Shadow War. They had destroyed supply lines. They had killed officers. They had torn the Empire apart from within. Now it was time to finish it. Captain, her communications officer, said, "We are receiving a transmission from High Commander Vorn." Jin felt nothing when she heard his name. The rage had burned out long ago. What remained was cold and empty and precise. On screen, Vorn's face appeared. He looked different now. The arrogance was gone. His forearms hung at his sides. His eyes showed something Jin had never expected to see in a Kellex warrior. Fear, human commander, Vorn said. I am prepared to discuss terms of surrender. The Kelix Empire acknowledges its mistakes. We are willing to pay reparations. We are willing to sign any treaty your government demands. Please stop this war. Jin stared at him for a long moment. Hey, Commander, do you remember what you said at the military exhibition? When Admiral Kang showed you human tactics, Vorn was silent. They called us vermin, Jin continued. You said we fought like prey animals. You laughed at us. I was wrong. I admit it. You offered us an apology after you killed 12,000 of my people. Words? You thought words were enough. Jin leaned forward. We do not offer the same courtesy. She ended the transmission. Continue to the homeworld, she ordered. The human fleet had been hiding. Spread across Kelix space in small groups, never more than a few ships together. They had fought the entire war without the Kelix ever seeing more than shadows. Now, Admiral Kang gave the order to reveal themselves. Across the Empire, thousands of human ships dropped their stealth systems. They emerged from asteroid fields, from behind moons, from the dark spaces between stars. Ships that had seemed like ghosts became solid and real and terrifying. The Kelix military finally had an enemy they could see. But by now, their fuel was gone. Their communications were dead. Their officers were dead or missing. Their crews were exhausted and demoralized. It was not a battle. It was a reckoning. High Commander Vorn watched his homeworld's defenses crumble. Human ships did not attack with the wild aggression he expected. They moved methodically, precisely, destroying one defensive platform at a time. They did not waste a single shot. They did not take unnecessary risks. They fought exactly the way Admiral Kang had shown at the exhibition, patient, calculated, inevitable. Why? Vorn whispered. We killed 12,000. You have killed millions by destroying our infrastructure. You have destroyed our economy. You have taken everything from us. How is this proportionate? How is this justice? His advisor, one of the few who remained, answered quietly. Perhaps, High Commander, they do not fight for justice. Perhaps they fight to teach a lesson. What lesson? That there are some species you do not provoke. That there are some prices too high to pay. That the quiet ones, the patient ones, the ones who do not roar and threaten those, are the ones you should fear most. Captain Jin brought the silent fire into orbit above the Kelix homeworld. Millions of Kelix looked up at the sky and saw human ships where their own defenders used to be. She opened a channel to the planet's surface. People of the Kelix Empire, your government attacked a peaceful human colony. 12,000 civilians died. Your leaders laughed at our pain. Your assembly offered us empty words. We have responded. She paused. Your military is destroyed. Your economy is broken. Your allies have abandoned you. But we have not come to kill your civilians. We have not come to take your world. We have come to deliver a message. Every screen on the planet showed her face. Calm, cold, unforgiving. You thought we were prey. You thought we were weak. You thought our patience meant we could not fight. Remember this day. Remember what happens when you attack humanity. Remember the price of underestimating us. She ended the transmission. Admiral Kang's voice came over her private channel. Captain Jin, the Kelix leadership has formally surrendered. The war is over. Jin looked down at the world below. Somewhere on that planet, Kelix children were looking up at the sky in terror. Just as human children had looked up at the sky over New Busan before they died, she felt nothing. 12,000, she whispered. I remember every name. The war was over, but the galaxy would never forget what they had witnessed. The species that had laughed at human tactics now stared at their screens in horror. The prey had become the hunter, and the hunter had won. 1 year had passed since. The war ended. The Kelix Empire was gone. Its territory had been divided among neighboring species. Its military had been dissolved. Its leaders had been tried for war crimes and removed from power. The once proud warrior race now lived under supervision, their fleets limited to defensive vessels, their expansion forbidden, but humanity had taken nothing for itself. This fact confused the galaxy more than anything else. Humans had won the most complete military victory in recorded history. They had destroyed an empire that had stood for 10,000 years. They could have claimed any territory they wanted. Instead, they returned home. The Galactic Assembly gathered for its annual summit. This year was different. Every seat was filled. Every delegate was silent as they waited for the human representative to speak. President Bae Soon-won walked to the center stage. He looked older than he had a year ago. The weight of what he had ordered showed in the lines of his face and the gray of his hair. But his eyes were still sharp. His voice was still strong. Delegates of the Galactic Assembly, he began. 1 year ago, I stood before you and delivered a warning. Many of you did not listen. Some of you laughed. Today, I stand before you to deliver something different. He paused, looking around the hall. I am here to offer peace. No one moved. No one spoke. We did not want the war against the Kellics. We did not start that conflict. A peaceful colony was destroyed. 12,000 innocent people died. We asked for justice. We were given words. His voice hardened. So we taught the galaxy a lesson. A lesson about what happens when humanity is pushed too far. He took a deep breath. But we did not fight to conquer. We did not fight for territory or resources or power. We fought to establish a simple truth. Humanity cannot be attacked without consequence. We have proven this. The lesson has been taught. Now we wish to move forward. President Bae activated a holographic display. A document appeared, floating above the stage. This is our proposal. A new treaty for the Galactic Assembly. It includes mutual defense agreements. Equal standing for all member species, regardless of age or technology level. And one absolute rule. Attacks on civilian populations will be met with unified response from all treaty members. He looked directly at the delegates. We offer this not from weakness, but from strength. We have shown what we can do. Now we wish to show what we choose to do. We choose cooperation. We choose progress. We choose a galaxy where the strong protects the weak, rather than prey upon them. The vote was unanimous. No one opposed the treaty. No one suggested changes. No one laughed. After the session, Ambassador Rilla found Admiral Kung Tae-ho standing alone on a balcony overlooking the assembly gardens. He had formally retired from military service. His uniform was gone, replaced by simple civilian clothes. But his eyes still held that patient, measuring look. Admiral, she said, approaching carefully, may I join you? I am no longer an admiral, ambassador. Just Kong Tae-ho now. Old habits. She stood beside him, looking out at the gardens. I have a question that has troubled me for a year. May I ask it? Of course. You won. Completely. The Kellics Empire was at your mercy. You could have taken everything. Their worlds, their resources, their people. Instead, you took nothing. Why? Kang was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Ambassador, do you know what an empire requires? Power, resources, territory? Those help. But what an empire truly requires is enemies, real or imagined. An empire needs threats to justify its existence, needs wars to maintain its structure, needs conquest to sustain its economy. He shook his head. We did not want to become an empire. We have seen what empires become. We have been victims of empires throughout our history. Then what did you want? Neighbors. He turned to face her. Neighbors who understand that attacking us is not worth the cost. Neighbors who remember what we can do and therefore never force us to do it again. Neighbors, not subjects. Partners, not victims. Rilla considered this. You wanted to be feared. No, we wanted to be respected. Fear fades. Fear requires constant maintenance. But respect, true respect, built on demonstrated capability that lasts. We showed the galaxy what humanity can do when threatened. Now we show the galaxy what humanity does when at peace. And if someone threatens you again, Kong's expression did not change, but something in his eyes grew cold for just a moment. then they will receive the same lesson the Kellics received. We have not forgotten how to fight. We simply choose not to. There is a difference. Lieutenant Yuna had been promoted many times during the year. She was now Commander Yuna, head of Earth's Strategic Planning Division. Captain Jin had been offered promotions too, but she had declined. She preferred to remain on the silent fire, watching the borders, keeping the peace. One day, Yuna visited Jin's ship. The two women sat in Jin's quarters, drinking tea and watching the stars through the viewport. "Do you ever regret it?" Yuna asked. "Regret what?" "The war. What we did. The Kellics lost millions to our tactics. Their civilization was destroyed." Jin was quiet for a long time. When she answered, her voice was distant. 12,000 people died at New Busan, my family. My friends, children I had known since they were babies. She set down her tea. The galaxy offered us an apology. Words, and they expected us to accept it. So you don't regret it. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the Kellics forced us to show what we could do. I regret that innocent Kellics paid for what their leaders did. She looked at Yuna. But I do not regret teaching the galaxy the truth about humanity. If we had accepted the apology, if we had shown weakness, every other species would know that humans could be attacked without consequence. More colonies would have been destroyed. More children would have died. She picked up her tea again. We did not start the war. We ended it. And we ended it so completely that no one will start another one. Not with us. Not for a very long time. Years passed. The treaty held. Humanity became a respected member of the Galactic Assembly. Not the most powerful. Not the most advanced. But universally acknowledged as a species that kept its word and responded to threats with devastating effectiveness. Human tactics were studied in military academies across the galaxy. Not to mock them anymore, but to understand them. The concepts of asymmetric warfare, psychological operations, and total war became standard subjects. Young officers learned about guerrilla tactics and supply line interdiction, and they learned the most important lesson of all: never underestimate the quiet ones in a school on a distant world. Many generations after the war, a young alien student raised their hand during history class. "Teacher," the student asked, "why are humans so respected? They are not the oldest species. They are not the most advanced. Their homeworld is small and far from the center of the galaxy. Why does everyone treat them with such care?" The teacher paused. They had been asked this question before. Every generation asked it eventually, because the teacher said they taught the galaxy a truth we had forgotten. What truth? The teacher looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the borders. Human diplomats negotiated treaties. Human scientists shared discoveries. Humanity had become a pillar of galactic civilization. But the teacher remembered the history, the war, the fall of the Kellics, the 17 installations that went dark in a single night, the empire that crumbled without ever seeing the enemy that destroyed it. The most dangerous creature, the teacher said slowly, is not the one that roars the loudest. It is not the one with the sharpest claws or the biggest fleet. The most dangerous creature is the one that waits in silence, the one that watches, the one that plans. The student frowned. "I don't understand." "You will. Someday, when you are older, you will understand why the galaxy respects humanity. Not because they are the strongest, not because they are the most aggressive, but because they showed us what happens when patience becomes a weapon." The teacher returned to the lesson, but the student kept thinking about the story, about a species that had been mocked and dismissed, about 12,000 dead on a distant moon, about a war that ended before most species even knew it had begun, and about the silence that followed, the most terrifying silence in galactic history, the silence of humans, who had proven their point and were waiting, always waiting to see if anyone was foolish enough to make them prove it again.